All right. So get this. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive
So deep dive.
into the world of customer-funded businesses.
All right.
I'm really excited about this one.
Me too.
It's a topic that I frankly hadn't thought much about until recently.
Right.
And
It's really interesting.
it's one of those things where you're like, why haven't I been thinking about this more?
Yeah, and it's kind of a flip of the script on what we normally talk about.
Yeah.
You know, we always talk about funding and how hard it is to get funding.
Right. Always trying
And
to
this is like the opposite.
get those VC dollars
Yeah, this is like forget the VCs. Let's just go right to the source.
straight to the customer.
Customer. Yeah.
And so how did you first come across this idea?
Well, John Mullins wrote this great book
Okay.
called The Customer Funded Business.
Okay.
And it's all about different models
Mhm.
of that companies can use to fund themselves without having to go to investors.
Now, Dell is one of the examples that he uses.
Dell is a great example.
So I'm curious, like, how did Dell use customer funding?
Well, they had this really brilliant idea back in the day when, computers were
Yeah.
becoming more and more popular. PCs were becoming a thing.
Right.
And most people bought their computers through retail stores.
Yeah, you go to like CompUSA or something.
Yeah, you'd go to a store and you'd look at the pre-built computers.
Yeah.
And they'd have like 3 models or whatever.
Right.
And Dell said, well, why do we have to do it that way?
Yeah.
Why can't we let customers customize their computer exactly how they want it? And so they came up with this model where you could go online
Yeah.
or call them up and you'd say, okay, I want this much RAM, I want this processor,
Mm.
I want this hard drive, and then you'd pay for it
Up front?
up front
Mm.
before they even built the computer.
Right.
And then they would assemble it and ship it to you.
Wow.
And that was revolutionary because it meant that they didn't have to hold
Whoa.
any inventory. They didn't have to guess what people wanted.
Right.
They just built what people ordered.
Yeah. So that's brilliant on a couple of levels.
Yeah.
One, they don't have to, like you said, hold the inventory, so there's no risk of overstock.
Right.
Two, they already have the money.
They have the cash.
They have the cash.
Yeah.
So they can just go and build and ship it out, so it's much less risky
Way less risky.
than having to try to predict what people are going to want 6 months from now.
Exactly.
And three, it creates this like nice relationship with the customer.
Yeah, because you're getting exactly what you want.
Right.
You're not getting some generic computer that somebody else decided you should have.
Right. And so is this model, like, is this something that's just for, computer hardware?
Well, that's a great question.
Or can other industries adopt this kind of thing?
So Mullins actually outlines 5 different models for customer-funded businesses.
Okay.
And the first one is the matchmaker model.
Matchmaker model. Okay.
So think about like Airbnb or Dog-Vacay
Okay.
or eBay or Expedia.
Right. So those are all companies that connect
They can
buyers and sellers.
buyers and sellers, exactly. They don't actually own any of the inventory.
Right. So they're just facilitating that transaction.
Yeah, facilitating.
But they're not actually holding the inventory.
Right.
So that's an interesting model.
And the reason that works so well
Yeah.
is because of network effects.
Right.
The more buyers you have, the more valuable it is for sellers.
Right.
And vice versa.
Makes sense.
So, Airbnb is a great example.
Yeah.
The more people who list their homes on Airbnb,
Right.
the more attractive it is for travelers to go to Airbnb.
Right. Because they have more options.
More options, exactly.
And so it creates this kind of like virtuous cycle where the more people use it, the more valuable it becomes.
Exactly.
And that's why those companies tend to be
Winner take all.
winner take all.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that those companies face?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is trust because you're connecting strangers
Right.
online.
Right.
And, in the case of Airbnb, you're letting people stay in your home.
Yeah. You're letting a stranger sleep in your bed, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to have a lot of trust.
So how do you build trust in those situations?
Well, Airbnb does a really good job of
Yeah.
vetting their hosts and their guests.
Right.
They have reviews. They
Yeah.
have background checks. They
Right.
have insurance.
So they've built a lot of safeguards
They've built in a lot of safeguards.
into the system
Yeah,
so that people feel comfortable.
right. And that's really important for those kinds of businesses.
Now, what's another model that we should be thinking about?
Well, the second model is pay in advance.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about Dell as an example.
Right.
But there are other examples like Banana Republic.
Okay.
They built their whole business on pre-orders.
Pre-orders for clothing. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought that would be kind of risky.
Well, it is risky, but it can also be very rewarding.
Right.
Because if you can get people to pay you up front,
Yeah.
then you don't have to worry about
Inventory.
inventory or unsold goods or anything like that.
Yeah. So what are some of the keys to making that model work?
Well, you have to have a really compelling product
Okay.
or service
Right.
that people are willing to pay for in advance.
So something that they really, really want
Something that they really, really want.
and they're willing to wait for.
And they're willing to wait for.
Because presumably if they're paying in advance,
Right.
they're not getting it immediately.
They're not getting it immediately.
So there has to be that kind of like delayed gratification element to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You also have to have a lot of trust.
Right.
Because people are giving you money before they've received anything.
Right.
So you have to have a good reputation.
Yeah.
You have to have a track record of delivering on your promises.
So this model seems like it would be good for businesses that have maybe like low overhead.
That's a good point.
Where they don't have to invest a lot of money up front
Yeah.
to create the product or service
Right.
because they're essentially getting the money from the customer to fund that creation process.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's another model that we should be thinking about?
Well, the third model is the subscription model.
Subscriptions.
Subscriptions.
Everybody loves subscriptions these days.
Everybody loves subscriptions.
It seems like everything is moving towards subscriptions.
Yay.
So what's the appeal there?
Well, from the business side, it's recurring revenue.
Recurring revenue. Okay.
So, you have that predictable income stream coming in every month.
Right. Predictable cash flow.
Predictable cash flow.
Makes it easier to plan.
Makes it easier to plant.
For growth.
For growth.
And from the consumer side,
Yeah.
what's the appeal?
Well, I think it's convenience.
Okay.
You don't have to think about it.
Right.
You just sign up once.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
And then you get your product or service delivered to you on a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
Without having to think about it.
Yeah.
So what are some examples of businesses that are using subscription models successfully?
Well, the obvious one is Netflix.
Right.
But there are tons of others, like Dollar Shave Club,
Right.
Blue Apron,
Yeah, meal kits.
meal kits,
All those kinds of things.
all kinds of things.
So it seems like subscriptions can work for both
Physical goods
physical goods
and digital goods.
and digital goods.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's another model?
Well, the fourth model is what Mullins calls the scarcity model.
Scarcity model.
Scarcity model.
Okay, so that sounds a little bit nefarious.
It does, but it's not really.
Okay.
It's basically just about creating a sense of urgency
Yeah, okay.
and exclusivity.
Got it.
So think about like those flash sale websites,
Yeah.
like Guilt Group or Rulala,
Right.
where they offer these amazing deals,
Yeah.
but only for a limited time.
Right. And so it creates this frenzy.
Fear of missing out, FOMO.
FOMO, exactly.
Yeah.
And people rush to buy the products.
So what are some of the challenges with that model?
Well, one challenge is you have to have really good relationships with your vendors
Right.
because you need to be able to get those products
Got-
at those deep discounts.
Right. You need to be able to secure that inventory.
Right.
You also need to be able to manage the logistics
Yeah.
of, getting those products shipped out to people
Yeah.
in a timely manner because
Right.
people are expecting them quickly.
Exactly.
And then you also have to be careful about
Also,
not overdoing it.
overdoing.
Because if you have a flash sale every day,
Right.
it's not really a flash sale anymore.
It's not special anymore.
Right. It loses its luster.
Exactly.
Okay, so last model, what is it?
The fifth model is what Mullins calls the service to product model.
Okay. Service to product.
Service to product.
Okay, so talk to me about that one. So this is where you start out by offering a service,
Okay.
and then you use that service
No.
to develop a product.
Okay.
So a good example of this is Microsoft.
Oh, okay.
They started out by developing software for other companies, and then they used that experience
Right.
to develop their own products.
Like Windows.
Like Windows, exactly.
Hmm.
So they were able to bootstrap their business
Right.
by using their service revenue
Right.
to fund the development of their product.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it seems like that model would be good for businesses that are
Kind of.
kind of experts in a particular area.
Yeah.
And they can use that expertise
Right.
to develop a product that solves a problem
Exactly.
for their customers.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about 5 different models
5 different models.
for customer-funded businesses.
For customer-funded businesses.
What are some of the common threads that run through all of these models? What makes these businesses successful? Well, I think the most important thing is that they're all solving a real problem for
Right.
their customers.
Right. So they're not just creating a product or service for the sake of creating it.
Right.
They're actually trying to solve a problem
They're trying to solve a problem.
that people are having.
Yeah.
What else?
They're also all really good at building relationships with their customers.
No.
They understand that their customers are their most valuable asset,
Right.
and they treat them accordingly.
So it's not just about the transaction. It's
Uh-huh.
about building that relationship
It's about building that relationship
and that trust.
and that trust.
Um, and then the third thing I would say is they're all really adaptable.
Okay.
They're not afraid to change course
Right.
if something's not working.
So they're constantly iterating.
They're constantly iterating.
They're constantly experimenting,
Experimenting.
trying new things to
Yeah.
see what works.
See what works.
And that's really important
It is.
in today's business environment. Yeah.
Because things are changing so quickly
So quickly.
that you have to be able to adapt
Or you're going to be left
behind.
Yep.
So these customer-funded models are really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to dive into some more specific examples
Me too.
of companies that are using these models successfully.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that there are some success stories with the pay in advance model. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Absolutely. Actually, Dell is a prime example.
Dell. Those guys are huge. I never thought of them as a scrappy startup.
It's easy to forget their humble beginnings, right? Back then, they were the small company with a radical concept.
What was so radical about it?
They had this wild idea: convince customers to pay for their PCs before those PCs were even built.
Whoa, seriously. They were basically asking people to trust them blindly. I mean, who would hand over their money for something that doesn't even exist yet?
Back then, the PC market was dominated by these big retailers. Limited choices, agonizing wait times. Michael Dell, he spotted this massive gap in the market. He saw that people craved customization.
So he was moving away from the one-size-fits-all approach and offering personalized solutions instead.
Exactly. He pioneered this direct-to-order system where customers could just choose their desired specs, make that upfront payment, and bam! Their unique PC would be built and delivered right to their doorstep.
It's like ordering your dream computer off a menu, bypassing those stuffy retail stores altogether.
Exactly. And this ingenious approach had several ripple effects. First off, it meant Dell could operate with minimal inventory, slashing their overhead costs significantly.
That's clever. No more mountains of unsold stock or those desperate clearance sales. What else did this model achieve?
Those upfront payments, they created this steady, dependable flow of cash, which Dell shrewdly reinvested to fuel their growth. It was a brilliant cycle.
Like a self-sustaining engine. The more orders they snagged, the more fuel they had to expand. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And there's another crucial element here. This model allowed Dell to forge a direct, unfiltered connection with their customers, gathering invaluable feedback and tailoring their offerings to meet evolving needs. They were building a customer-centric culture right from the start.
So it wasn't just about securing funding. It was about creating a business that truly revolved around the customer.
Dell's journey is a fantastic illustration of this principle. Pay in advance models truly shine when they address a real, tangible market need that traditional businesses are just too slow to recognize or act upon.
They were offering something unique, something customers valued enough to pay for in advance. It's remarkable. Okay, so what about other industries? Can you give me an example of the pay in advance model working outside of the tech world?
Absolutely. Get ready for this one. Banana Republic.
Banana Republic, the clothing company.
That's the one.
They used a pay in advance model. I never would have guessed.
Their beginnings are actually a lot humbler than their current image might suggest. It all started with this adventurous couple, Mel and Patricia Ziegler. They had a real knack for discovering unique stuff.
Sounds like an exciting story waiting to unfold. Where did they start?
Well, they took this amazing road trip across South America, collecting military surplus clothing and all sorts of quirky artifacts.
So their initial inventory came straight from their travels. That's a far cry from those typical fashion supply chains.
They weren't playing by the usual rules. They envisioned this captivating retail experience, something that transported customers to far-off lands. They wanted to offer something beyond just clothes.
They were selling an experience, a story, a connection to something out of the ordinary.
Precisely. They opened their first store in 1978. It was in Mill Valley, California, and it felt more like a treasure trove than a regular clothing store.
Did this unique approach catch on? Were people drawn to their eclectic collection?
Oh, they definitely were. Customers were captivated by the unusual items and the stories behind each piece. But here's the twist. They were operating on a shoestring budget.
Ah, the classic startup dilemma. Limited resources and big dreams. So how did they manage?
They took a bold step. They created these captivating catalogs showcasing their unique finds and invited customers to pre-order the items they loved.
Pre-orders for clothes. That's a gamble, especially considering how fickle fashion can be. I mean, trends change like the wind. Were people on board with this idea?
It was a risky move, but it allowed them to operate without a huge financial burden. They'd only buy the items once they had the money from eager customers in hand.
Their customers were essentially financing their inventory purchases. That's incredibly smart. It's a fantastic way to minimize risk and manage cash flow.
It was a stroke of genius, and guess what? This approach had an unexpected yet very welcome side effect. It created a buzz, a sense of anticipation around their products.
Because customers were invested, quite literally, in the arrival of their pre-ordered items. They were part of the process.
Exactly. It fostered this sense of exclusivity, almost like they were part of a secret club. And that feeling fueled their early growth.
It's like they turned shopping into a treasure hunt. Who wouldn't be intrigued by that?
Their catalogs were filled with captivating stories and descriptions, adding to the allure of their offerings.
They were masters of storytelling, weaving narratives around their products. They understood that people connect with stories, not just things.
They knew exactly what they were doing, and their success didn't go unnoticed. Pretty soon, they were featured in all these big-time magazines and newspapers, boosting their unconventional brand even further.
It's a real-life fairy tale, almost. A couple with a thirst for adventure builds a successful business by selling pre-ordered military surplus. Incredible.
It's a story that challenges expectations, doesn't it? Banana Republic's journey proves that pay-in-advance models can thrive in the consumer market, especially when they offer something truly unique and desirable.
It's a brilliant blend of creativity, resourcefulness, and a deep understanding of customer psychology. They transformed a potential weakness, lack of capital, into a strength.
Well,
It's inspiring.
now let's hop over to India and look at a company that revolutionized travel in a completely different way. Ever heard of Via.com?
Via.com, the name doesn't ring a bell.
They might not be globally famous, but they're a giant in the Indian travel booking scene. Their story is a powerful illustration of customer-funded growth in action.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me about this Indian success story.
It all started with a young entrepreneur named Vinay Gupta. He saw how clunky and inefficient the traditional travel booking system in India was.
What were some of the pain points people faced when booking travel back then?
Imagine this. It's the late 1990s. To book a flight or a train ticket in India, you'd have to make multiple trips to travel agents. Tons of paperwork, endless waiting. It was a real headache.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare. What did Vinay Gupta do to fix this?
He had this vision to leverage the power of the internet, which was just starting to take off, to streamline the whole travel booking process.
The internet was transforming industries left and right. It makes sense that he saw its potential to disrupt the travel sector.
He founded Via.com in 1996, his initial target, travel agents. He provided them with this revolutionary real-time booking platform.
So he took a business-to-business approach to revolutionize a consumer-facing industry. That's a different angle.
He understood the crucial role travel agents played in the Indian travel market. By empowering them with cutting-edge technology, he could reach a vast customer base indirectly.
It's a clever way to scale your reach without directly targeting individual travelers. What was his secret sauce? What made his model work?
His business model was simple yet brilliant. Travel agents could access his platform for a reasonable monthly subscription fee.
So recurring revenue from subscribers instead of commissions on individual bookings. Was it a success?
It was a game changer. This model gave Via.com a predictable and consistent income, which they wisely plowed back into their growth.
It also aligned their interests perfectly with those of the travel agents. The more bookings agents made through the platform, the more valuable Via.com became. It's a win-win.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. They built this entire operation from the ground up using customer funding.
Wow. So they scaled significantly without relying on external investors or diving into the complex world of venture capital. That's impressive. What were the key ingredients of their success?
First, they zeroed in on a real, tangible problem faced by their target market. Travel agents were desperate for a more efficient and reliable booking system.
They weren't just selling software. They were offering a solution that directly improved their customers' businesses.
Exactly. They were delivering tangible value, not just peddling a product. They also understood the importance of nurturing those relationships with their subscribers, providing excellent customer support, and continuously improving their platform.
It's about being a partner, a trusted ally, rather than just a faceless vendor.
Precisely. As Via.com expanded, they strategically broadened their offerings, adding train and bus bookings, hotel reservations, even complete vacation packages.
So they diversified their revenue streams while sticking to their core mission of simplifying travel booking. A smart strategy.
Via.com's journey showcases the remarkable potential of customer-funded growth in a dynamic market like India. They identified a need, built a solution, and nurtured those customer relationships, all without relying on outside funding.
It's a testament to the fact that entrepreneurial spirit can flourish anywhere. It's all about solving real problems and delivering real value.
Now let's explore another intriguing facet of customer funding vendor financing. Are you familiar with this concept?
Vendor financing. That term is a bit new to me. What does it mean?
Think of it as strategically utilizing the resources of your suppliers to propel your growth.
So instead of seeking traditional funding from banks or investors, you're tapping into your existing supply chain.
Exactly. This is particularly useful for businesses with limited access to those traditional funding avenues. Think startups or businesses in emerging markets.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a way to bootstrap and overcome those cash flow hurdles, especially in the early days.
We can shed some light on this concept with the fascinating story of The Loot, an Indian retail chain that achieved early success by cleverly using vendor financing.
The Loot. What did they sell?
They specialized in offering discounted branded apparel and accessories. Think treasure trove of deals for savvy shoppers.
So, sort of like an outlet store, offering brand name goods at lower prices.
Spot on. Their business model was what made them special. They relied heavily on consignments from well-established brands.
Consignments. You mean they weren't buying the inventory outright?
Exactly. They'd showcase the brand's merchandise in their stores, but only pay for the items after they were sold.
That's a brilliant way to minimize their financial risk. They could operate with very little upfront capital.
It was pure resourcefulness. They essentially turned their suppliers into their financiers, using their inventory to fuel their expansion.
What was the upside for the brands? Why would they agree to this arrangement?
It gave those brands an outlet for their excess inventory. They could offload unsold stock without resorting to drastic discounts that might damage their brand image.
So everyone wins. The Loot gets desirable merchandise without tying up their capital, and the brands get to expand their reach and clear out excess inventory. A win-win scenario.
It was a perfect symbiotic relationship that propelled growth on both sides. And the Loot's model proved incredibly effective.
So they managed to achieve substantial growth through this approach.
They did. They rapidly expanded their footprint across India, opening multiple stores, all while essentially bootstrapping their expansion with vendor financing.
They turned a potential roadblock limited access to capital into a launchpad for growth. It's remarkable. But did this heavy reliance on vendor financing ever create challenges for them as they aimed to scale even further?
It did. As they grew, they felt increasing pressure from brands who wanted upfront payments for their merchandise.
I see. As the Loot gained success, the power dynamics shifted and brands wanted a better deal.
Exactly. The brands saw the Loot's growing influence and wanted a bigger piece of the pie.
That's understandable from a business perspective. So how did the Loot handle this pressure?
At first, they dug in their heels, trying to maintain their consignment-based model. However, the market was changing, and they had to adapt to survive.
Did they start exploring other funding options to meet these new demands?
They did. They secured bank loans and even got a small investment from the founder's family.
So they went from relying solely on vendor financing to seeking more traditional funding sources. Did this shift have a big impact on their business?
It marked a significant shift in their journey. By taking on debt and external investment, they introduced new complexities and financial pressures.
They lost some of that freedom and agility that characterized their early growth phase. It's a trade-off many expanding companies face.
Exactly. Their story offers valuable insights into both the benefits and the limitations of vendor financing.
It's a powerful tool for fueling early growth, but it may not be a sustainable long-term strategy, especially for companies with big dreams for expansion.
As businesses evolve and their ambitions soar, they often need to diversify their funding sources and adopt more sophisticated financial management strategies.
The Loot's journey provides a valuable lesson for entrepreneurs trying to balance growth with financial stability. It's a delicate dance. Okay, let's move on to another model that's everywhere these days. The subscription model.
Subscription models have become incredibly popular. It seems like every industry is jumping on the recurring revenue bandwagon.
From streaming services to software, meal kits to online learning, subscriptions are everywhere. What's fueling this widespread adoption?
Well, this model offers advantages for both businesses and consumers. Businesses love that predictable income stream and the increased customer loyalty it fosters.
And for consumers, it often boils down to convenience, affordability, and access to exclusive content or services. It's a win-win scenario.
Let's illustrate this with the story of Tutor Vista, an Indian company that revolutionized the online education space.
Tutor Vista. I haven't heard of them before. What's their story?
They were true pioneers in online tutoring. They seamlessly connected students with qualified tutors through video conferencing.
They saw the potential of technology to personalize education and break down geographical barriers. It was a game changer.
Absolutely. Founded in 2005 by Krishnan Ganesh, Tutor Vista addressed this growing demand for affordable and convenient tutoring.
What was their initial approach? How did they structure their offerings?
They started by offering tutoring sessions on an hourly basis. Students paid a fee for each hour of instruction.
That seems straightforward enough. Did this model work for them?
It worked initially, but they quickly encountered obstacles that were limiting their growth potential.
What kind of obstacles were they facing?
The hourly billing model led to unpredictable revenue streams, making it difficult to forecast and plan for the future. Managing tutor availability was also a struggle.
I see. If students booked sessions randomly, it would be hard to ensure tutors were consistently available. It's a scheduling nightmare.
Exactly. That's when they had their light bulb moment.
What was their breakthrough? How did they solve these problems?
They decided to switch to a subscription model. It was a bold move.
So instead of paying for individual hours, students could now pay a fixed monthly fee for unlimited access to tutoring services.
Precisely. This shift had several benefits.
What were some of the positive outcomes of adopting this new model?
First and foremost, it gave Tutor Vista that coveted, stable, predictable, recurring revenue stream.
That steady cash flow is like gold for any business, especially a growing one. What other benefits did they see?
The subscription model encouraged students to engage with the platform more frequently and consistently.
That makes perfect sense. If you're paying a monthly fee, you're going to want to get your money's worth by using the service regularly.
Right. This increased engagement translated into better learning outcomes for students and, consequently, greater customer satisfaction. Tutor Vista's story illustrates a powerful principle. Subscription models can be a phenomenal growth engine, especially in fields where usage is predictable and ongoing.
It seems like an ideal fit for businesses offering services that require continuous engagement, like education, fitness, maybe even entertainment.
Now, let's contrast Tutor Vista's success with a company that also embraced the subscription model but faced different challenges, H. Bloom.
H. Bloom. I know them. They do those beautiful flower arrangements, right?
That's them. But their experience is a cautionary tale, reminding us how important it is to truly understand your market and recognize when a subscription model might not be the best fit.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about their journey and what went wrong.
H. Bloom was founded in 2010 by Brian Burkhart, a tech-savvy entrepreneur.
So he was bringing a fresh, tech-driven perspective to a traditionally non-tech industry.
Exactly. His vision was to disrupt the flower market by offering a subscription service for fresh, beautifully arranged bouquets delivered regularly.
Instead of going to a florist or ordering flowers online for special occasions, you could subscribe and have flowers delivered weekly or bi-weekly. Sounds lovely.
It did, and initially it seemed to resonate with customers. They attracted subscribers and even secured venture capital funding.
So far, so good. They were following a similar path to Tutor Vista customer funding, followed by VC investment. What happened?
They hit a few roadblocks they hadn't anticipated.
Like what? What were some of the challenges they encountered?
They underestimated how competitive the flower industry already was.
In what way? Were there more players in the market than they realized?
Many established florists were already offering subscription services, particularly to their corporate clients.
Ah, so they weren't disrupting the market as thoroughly as they thought. They were wading into an arena that was already somewhat crowded.
Right. And they also ran into logistical issues inherent in the flower business itself.
What kind of issues?
Well, managing a nationwide flower delivery network is no walk in the park. Keeping those delicate flowers fresh across long distances, coordinating deliveries, handling customer inquiries, it's a lot to juggle.
Flowers are perishable. It's not like shipping books or electronics. They need special care and attention.
Exactly. And then there's the subscription model itself. It presented unique challenges in this context.
How so? Didn't it work perfectly for Tutor Vista?
While student engagement was key to Tutor Vista's success, flower deliveries are, by nature, a passive experience.
Once the flowers arrive, There's not much interaction needed from the customer. It's not like an educational platform that thrives on active participation.
Right. This inherent passivity limited HBloom's ability to cultivate that deep customer loyalty and recurring revenue that TutorVista thrived on.
So even though both companies adopted subscription models, the nature of their offerings and their target markets led to completely different outcomes. It's a reminder that a one-size-fits-all approach rarely works.
HBloom's experience highlights a critical lesson. Subscription models aren't a magic bullet. They work best when they encourage active engagement, deliver tangible value consistently, and address a true market need.
Entrepreneurs need to carefully consider whether a subscription model truly aligns with what they're offering and who they're targeting.
Now, let's shift gears and explore the scarcity model, a model that thrives on creating a sense of urgency and exclusivity.
Ah, yes, the scarcity model. Those limited time offers that trigger our fear of missing out and make our wallets tremble.
We briefly discussed Venti Privé earlier, but let's dive a bit deeper into their journey and uncover the secrets behind their enduring success.
They've certainly demonstrated that this model can be a viable long-term strategy, not just a passing fad. How have they managed to pull that off?
One crucial factor is their deep understanding of their target audience, fashion-conscious shoppers who crave both value and a sense of being part of something exclusive.
They've found the sweet spot, offering desirable merchandise at appealing prices while preserving a sense of prestige and allure. It's a difficult balance to strike.
It truly is. It's not about just slashing prices. It's about creating a curated shopping experience that makes customers feel special and rewarded.
It's like being invited to a secret fashion society where you get access to incredible deals that are off limits to everyone else.
Exactly. Veni Privé is a master at building that feeling of community among its members. They foster a sense of belonging and insider access, which are incredibly powerful motivators.
So it goes beyond mere transactions. It's about building lasting relationships with their customers. What else sets them apart?
They're masters of storytelling, weaving compelling narratives around the brands and products they feature, making the entire experience richer and more engaging.
They're not just selling clothes, they're selling a lifestyle, an aspiration. And I'm assuming they've figured out the logistical complexities of running those time-sensitive flash sales.
Their logistical prowess is truly remarkable. They've mastered the art of ensuring smooth and efficient fulfillment, which is crucial when dealing with limited-time offers and those sudden surges in demand. Now let's contrast their approach with another player in the flash sale arena, Gilt Group. They were a hot name in the fashion world for a while.
Field Group, yes. I remember them making a splash. What factors contributed to their early success?
They capitalized on the growing appetite for online luxury shopping, offering a curated selection of designer brands at prices that were significantly lower than retail.
So their target market was similar to Vente Privés, those discerning shoppers looking for a blend of luxury and value.
Precisely. They also embraced the members-only model, creating that sense of exclusivity and urgency that drives the scarcity model.
What set their approach apart from Vente Privés? What was their unique angle?
They put a heavy emphasis on technology, investing heavily in developing a sophisticated platform driven by data analytics and personalization.
So they were leveraging the power of technology to create a more engaging, personalized experience for their customers, ultimately driving sales. That seems like a smart move.
It was a smart move, and they pursued an aggressive expansion strategy, venturing into new product categories beyond fashion, trying to broaden their reach and capture a larger slice of the market.
So they were aiming to be the go-to destination for all kinds of discounted luxury goods, not just fashion.
Exactly. They wanted to grow and diversify. However, this rapid expansion proved to be both a blessing and a curse.
I can see how uncontrolled growth can create unintended consequences. What were some of the challenges they faced?
While their rapid expansion fueled their early success, it ultimately stretched their operations too thin and diluted their focus.
It's easy to lose sight of your core strengths when you're racing to expand into new markets and offer new products. It can spread resources too thin and lead to missteps.
You hit the nail on the head. It also became challenging for them to maintain that consistent quality and exclusivity across their expanding merchandise selection.
It's tough to uphold those high standards when you're scaling rapidly and onboarding new vendors. It's a classic growing pain for many companies.
They also encounter difficulties in managing customer expectations and ensuring a smooth, efficient returns process, which are critical for any e-commerce business, but even more so when dealing with high-value items and limited time offers.
Those are essential aspects of the customer experience that can make or break a company's reputation.
Guilt Group's journey is a reminder that while growth is important, it needs to be managed strategically. Maintaining focus and ensuring a positive customer experience should never be sacrificed in the pursuit of expansion.
Growth for growth's sake can be a dangerous trap, especially if it leads to a decline in the quality of your offerings or deterioration of the customer experience. Now, let's circle back to the service to product model. And there's no better example of this than Microsoft.
Microsoft. They've been a driving force in the tech world for decades. It's almost impossible to imagine them as anything other than a giant.
It's hard to picture them as a scrappy startup navigating the world of customer funding, yet that's precisely how they started.
Their early years were marked by a combination of ingenuity, a lean operating style, and a deep understanding of how to leverage customer funding to achieve their goals.
Let's rewind the clock. Take me back to their humble beginnings. How did it all start?
Back in the early 1980s, they were a relatively small software company, primarily focused on developing operating systems for other companies' computers.
So they weren't building their own hardware. They were creating the software that made other machines functional and user-friendly.
Exactly. They secured contracts with established players like IBM, providing the operating system for their iconic personal computers.
So their early revenue came from these business-to-business partnerships. What was their first major product launch, the one that really put them on the map?
It was MS-DOS, the operating system that became the foundation of the PC revolution.
Ah, yes, MS-DOS. Those cryptic commands bring back memories for anyone who used computers back then. So they essentially used the revenue from these early service contracts to fund the development of their own groundbreaking product.
That's exactly what they did. It was a brilliant strategic move that allowed them to evolve from a service-based company to a product-focused powerhouse, and ultimately, it changed the entire tech landscape.
What were the key factors that contributed to their phenomenal success?
They had a deep understanding of the burgeoning PC market. They recognized that there was a critical need for a user-friendly operating system that could truly unlock the potential of those early personal computers.
Those early PCs were basically just glorified calculators without a powerful and easy-to-use operating system.
Exactly. And Microsoft seized that opportunity. They created a product that quickly became the industry standard.
They were in the right place at the right time with the right solution. But timing alone doesn't guarantee that kind of success. What else did they do right?
They were strategic about building relationships with key hardware manufacturers, securing valuable distribution channels for their software.
It's not enough to just have a great product. You need to get it in front of the right people, and they did that masterfully.
Absolutely. They also fostered a culture of relentless innovation, constantly refining their software and expanding their product line to keep pace with the ever-evolving needs of their customers.
In the world of technology, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. They understood that.
Microsoft's journey showcases the power of strategic customer funding. It's not just about making money from your current customers, it's about leveraging those relationships, those insights, and those resources to develop products that can reshape entire industries.
It's a fantastic example of how a company can transform itself and leave a lasting impact on the world. Now let's switch gears and explore another company that used the service-to-product model in a fascinating way. Have you heard of MapMyIndia?
MapMyIndia, they're essentially the Indian equivalent of Google Maps or Apple Maps.
Wow. They created the digital mapping infrastructure for an entire nation. That's incredibly ambitious. Tell me their story.
Their journey started way back in the early 1990s, long before the days of smartphones and GPS navigation systems.
Those were the pioneering days of digital mapping. It's amazing to think how far technology has come since then.
It's been a remarkable evolution. Picture this. A husband and wife team, Rakesh and Rashmi Verma, fueled by a passion for technology and a vision to transform India.
What was their initial focus? What services did they offer in those early days?
They started by providing IT training and software development services. They were leveraging their expertise to meet a growing need in the market.
So they were laying the groundwork, building a foundation of knowledge and experience while generating revenue through business-to-business contracts.
Exactly. They also had a side venture, licensing American digital mapping software to Indian companies.
So they were already dabbling in the world of mapping, getting their feet wet, so to speak.
They were, and that experience led them to a pivotal turning point in their journey.
What was that turning point? What happened that changed everything?
In the mid-1990s, they landed a big contract with Coca-Cola India.
Coca-Cola, a beverage giant. What on earth did they need digital mapping services for?
Coca-Cola wanted to optimize their distribution network, a crucial aspect of their business in a country as vast as India. The problem was, they didn't have accurate, detailed maps of India.
Ah, so Map My India's expertise was precisely what they needed to navigate the complexities of the Indian market. It seems like fate brought them together.
It was a perfect match. However, there was a major obstacle. Creating a comprehensive digital map of India was a gargantuan undertaking.
India is a massive country with diverse terrain and very limited pre-existing mapping data. It must have seemed like an impossible task.
It was a daunting challenge. But the Vermas weren't phased. They saw this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
So how did they pull it off? What strategies did they use to tackle such a massive undertaking?
They started by painstakingly digitizing existing paper maps. They were combining technological innovation with sheer determination and resourcefulness.
They were bootstrapping their mapping database, using whatever resources they could get their hands on. It's impressive.
They also embarked on the incredibly challenging task of gathering their own data, sending teams across the country to map roads, landmarks, points of interest, everything.
That's a massive effort. It shows how dedicated they were to their vision. What were the key ingredients to their success?
Their deep understanding of the Indian market was crucial. They knew firsthand the challenges of navigating India's complex geography and the shortcomings of existing mapping solutions.
They weren't just copying what others were doing, they were creating something truly unique, something specifically tailored to the Indian market.
They also understood the need for a sustainable business model. They secured contracts with other companies, providing custom mapping services and data to generate revenue while building their master database.
That's brilliant. They were essentially using their customers' needs to fund the development of their core product.
It's a fantastic example of aligning business goals with customer needs.
So as their database grew, they strategically expanded their offerings to target individual consumers as well.
Exactly. They introduced navigation devices, mobile apps, and online mapping services, leveraging their massive database and their deep understanding of the Indian market.
They democratized access to their data, empowering anyone to navigate and explore India with ease. Their story is truly inspiring.
Map My India story is a testament to the power of vision, persistence, and a strategic approach to customer funding. They started with a single contract and built a company that changed the way people navigate and experience their world.
Okay, so we've covered several inspiring stories. Before we move on, let's touch upon the service-to-product model one last time. I'm eager to grasp its nuances.
This model is all about using your expertise and insights to transition from a service-focused business to one that centers around a tangible product.
It's about packaging your knowledge and experience into something you can sell on a larger scale. It seems like a logical progression for many service-based businesses.
Absolutely. And we can bring this model to life with the captivating story of Go Viral, a Danish company that started by offering personalized video distribution services and ended up building a global platform.
Go Viral, the company that was acquired for a whopping $100 million.
Sorry, I got cut off there. I was saying Go Viral, the company that was acquired for a whopping $100 million.
Right.
Their story is a great example of how to leverage customer funding and strategically transition from a service-based model to a product-based model.
Okay, so take me back to the beginning. How did they get started?
Well, picture two young entrepreneurs in Copenhagen, Denmark. Klaus Mosholm and Jimmy Mayman, both passionate about online video.
They were early adopters of a technology that was just starting to emerge.
They were pioneers, really. They saw the incredible potential of online video to engage audiences and connect brands with consumers.
Visionaries ahead of their time. What were they offering in those early days?
They started by providing customized video distribution services to brands and advertising agencies.
So they were helping companies navigate the world of online video marketing, creating and spreading video content.
Precisely. And they specialized in creating viral videos, content designed to spread rapidly across the internet.
That was a valuable service back then for brands eager to reach a wider audience and generate buzz.
Absolutely. And they built a strong reputation for creativity effectiveness and their ability to generate widespread attention for their clients' campaigns.
They were establishing themselves as experts in this new and rapidly evolving field.
And here's the key. They bootstrapped their early growth entirely through customer funding.
So they were reinvesting the revenue from those service contracts to fuel their expansion.
They were incredibly disciplined with their finances. They didn't seek external investment in those early years.
That's impressive. What prompted them to transition from a service-based model to a product-focused one? What triggered that shift?
As their experience grew and their client base expanded, they realized that their customized services lacked scalability.
I see. If they were creating bespoke solutions for each client, their growth would be limited by how many projects they could handle.
Exactly. They needed a way to reach a broader audience and automate their processes to achieve exponential growth.
So they saw technology as the key to amplifying their impact and transforming their business.
They decided to build a self-service platform that would allow anyone to distribute video content easily and effectively.
So they were essentially democratizing video distribution, making it accessible to everyone, not just big brands with big budgets.
Precisely. Their platform streamlined the process of uploading, managing, and tracking video content across multiple channels.
It was a game changer for content creators of all sizes, empowering them to reach global audiences without needing specialized technical expertise.
And their timing was impeccable. Online video consumption was exploding, and their platform provided the perfect solution to meet that growing demand.
They rode that wave perfectly, didn't they?
They did. And their early focus on customer funding paid off in a big way.
How so?
By bootstrapping their growth and building a profitable business, they were able to develop their platform without giving up equity to outside investors.
So they retained control over their company and their vision.
Exactly. And when they did decide to seek external investment, they were in an incredibly strong position.
They had a proven track record, a loyal customer base, and a platform that was perfectly positioned to capitalize on the explosive growth of online video.
That's why they were able to attract a $100 million acquisition offer from AOL in 2009.
It's an incredible story. It shows the power of bootstrapping, strategic thinking, and staying ahead of the curve.
GoViral's journey offers valuable lessons for entrepreneurs who are looking to build scalable businesses in rapidly evolving markets.
It highlights the importance of solving a real problem, delivering value to your customers, and being willing to adapt and innovate as the market changes.
And perhaps most importantly, it demonstrates that customer funding can be a powerful tool for building a thriving and successful business.
Well, this has been an eye-opening deep dive into the world of customer-funded businesses.
It's been a pleasure exploring these unconventional paths to entrepreneurial success.
We've uncovered a wealth of insights and inspiration from companies of all shapes and sizes across diverse industries.
And we've learned that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to building a business.
The key is to find the model that best aligns with your vision, your goals, and the needs of your customers.
Whether you're connecting buyers and sellers, offering subscriptions or pre-orders, leveraging vendor financing, or transitioning from services to products, the possibilities are endless.
The unifying factor is a deep understanding of your customers, a relentless focus on delivering value, and a willingness to adapt and innovate as the market evolves.
So as we wrap up this exploration of customer-funded businesses, we hope you're feeling inspired and empowered to challenge conventional wisdom and forge your own path to entrepreneurial success.
Remember, your customers are your greatest asset. Their support, their feedback, and their loyalty are the foundations of a truly sustainable and impactful business.
So embrace the power of customer centricity and let their needs guide your journey. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.